Hello, everyone. My name is Guy Gordon, and I'm the Executive Director of the Institute for Citizen-Centered Service, and I'd like to welcome each and every one of you to today's webinar. On behalf of the ICCS, I'd like to welcome and thank our presenter today, Joel Dickinson from Service New Brunswick, who is going to present the story of Service New Brunswick and their effort to develop a culture of lean. As all of you can attest, there is an increasing interest in the application of lean methodology in its application to public services, not only here in Canada, but around the world. And we're really privileged today to have Joel, who brings both the public and private sector background and expertise to this story, to give us a hands-on picture of how Service New Brunswick has been using this tool. Recently, I had the opportunity of speaking with one of the vice presidents from Service New Brunswick, Judy Ross, who was recounting to me how much they have benefited from the application of this tool. So I believe there's going to be a lot to take away from today's session, and I hope you will enjoy it. Just a couple of housekeeping items. What we will be doing throughout the session is providing you with an opportunity to submit questions to Joel. These will be collected and fed back to Joel at the end of his presentation. And the way in which you do that is to use the chat box, and this has worked really well in the past. Lastly, what I will say is there is a recording of today's session being made, and that will be made available to participants who registered for the course or for this presentation at a later date, and that will be available on the ICCS website. So, without any further ado, I want to turn it over to today's presenter, Joel Dickinson from Service New Brunswick.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Guy. And I'm just going to enable some video here as well, and hopefully this will work. And you can see me as well as I present. So thank you very much to Guy and his team for the opportunity to come and speak to you today about the story, I guess the story of Service New Brunswick and how we've developed a lean culture, and it's an ongoing challenge for us to continue to evolve that culture. And hopefully today I'll have a few tidbits in here for you in this presentation that you'll be able to take away and use in your organizations. So just as an overview, I'm going to give you a brief introduction to Service New Brunswick, and many of you may not be familiar with it, but it's probably similar to a lot of your organizations. And then talk about how lean has come to be at Service New Brunswick and how it evolved. Talk about our current strategy that we're deploying this year, and some results. I'll be sharing results throughout the presentation as well, and kind of wrap up at the end with some lessons learned that we've experienced at Service New Brunswick, but I'll also be talking about those throughout the presentation as well. So let's get started. There we go. So Service New Brunswick, we're an outward-facing organization allowing citizens in New Brunswick to access to multiple government services. We have many different partners that we offer our services, but our four core partners are government departments, federal government, municipalities, and also we offer some services for private industry as well. Just to kind of give you an idea of how we're spaced out across the province, you can see all the different arrows on the diagram. We're spread out fairly with 39 different service centers across the province and one call center as well. Our service centers range in size from 8,000 transactions per year, so about a one-person shop open a couple of days a week, to 230,000 transactions per year. So you're talking about a 20 to 25-person shop that's open 6 days a week. Our over-the-counter transactions are roughly about 2.2 million transactions per year. If you add in online and other services as well, we're upwards to 5 million transactions. We have approximately 700 employees, and that fluctuates a bit based on seasonality of Service New Brunswick as well. So our core services are obviously service delivery. We have property assessment, land registry, vital statistics, and also rentals and an office as well. So in the beginning, kind of on our lean journey, Service New Brunswick was an early adopter government-wide to bring this in. We brought this in back in 2007 and 8 with more of a lean focus. And as you can imagine, we had a group that went away and took some training and brought this in. And there was a bit of a learning curve for that group and also for the organization. How do we want to apply it? What are we looking to do? What are we looking to achieve coming out of this? And as you can imagine as well, there was a lot of push for the program versus pull early on. And what I mean by that is not a lot of people coming to the door saying, you know what, we'd like to use the lean methodology to help us improve some business areas. So the group was constantly going out and seeking opportunities and really pushing the message out there. So as you can imagine off the start, there was a lack of buy-in, and which led to limited success because people didn't know what could lean really do for the organization, what could lean really do for my area of the business. So one of the lessons learned up here was really high-level executive sponsorship and key messaging out on the early part of it to get the information for lean out there. So what changed? Well, in 2009, we blended Lean and Six Sigma like many organizations are doing, taking a Lean Six Sigma approach versus just a strictly Lean approach. And while we did that, we started to see some project successes from our past Lean efforts, and then with the Lean and Six Sigma approach, we had more project successes. So what we started to feel was more of a pull than a push. We had more people coming to our organization looking for opportunities to help with Lean Six Sigma. With that, too, as well, we had engagement that increased. So we had an increased engagement which helped our program gain some traction as well. And when I'm talking about what is Lean Six Sigma, I borrowed this graphic from our friends at GoLeanSixSigma.com, but when you blend Lean's looking at reducing waste and streamlining processes, which many of you are probably aware. And Six Sigma looks at reducing defects by effectively solving problems, looking at bringing data to that and understanding what are the challenges that way. So when you blend those two together, you get a much more accelerated approach in Lean Six Sigma, which helps to solve problems, improving processes, and is faster, much more efficient. So I borrowed that graphic from our friends at GoLeanSixSigma.com. So what happened in 2011? There was more gas put on the lean fire, if you will. Government bought in heavily to the strategy. As many of you are aware, in the province of New Brunswick, we're facing some fiscal challenges. And what happened was it started with the Premier, the Finance Minister bought into this and brought this strategy forward as part of their platform as well. So we had a high-level sponsorship that said, you know what, Lean Six Sigma can really help us with our fiscal challenges. Not only obviously did the Premier and the Finance Minister buy into this, but we also had buy-in from our President, who had been bought in all along, and our executive. And Lean Six Sigma became a key pillar to the performance excellence process. And this was the real thing that the government brought in and we're working with today. Performance excellence process is a way of managing differently. Looking at business and said, you know what, currently our business model, the way government works is not sustainable, so we need to change it. How can we manage more effectively? So this brought in a set of tools and a methodology to help us augment our management practices. So today at Service New Brunswick, we have the right tools in place, and that goes back to the performance excellence process and the lean culture. We have a vision and a plan. We have a cascading strategy map, and what I mean by that is basically we have a strategy and a plan and how we're going to achieve that. We have a scorecard that says, what do we want to achieve? How do we want to get there? Are we actually doing what we said we're going to do? A calendar of commitments is another tool to say, are we delivering on what we said we're going to do? And SOMIA is just a smart acronym for an initiative tracker to say, are the key initiatives taking place that we need to do in order to achieve a continuous improvement culture? And that all rolls up into the performance excellence process. Also across Service New Brunswick, we have 6 Lean Six Sigma Black Belts who are actively working and driving the continuous improvement culture, the lean culture. We have engagement of executives. Early on in 2011, when we started this process, we had buy-in from our executives, and they went away for 5 days worth of training around lean culture. And this was a huge win for us because right away we have buy-in, we have support from our executives. We have buy-in from management. So not just at the executive level, but at the management level. And by no means is every manager bought in, but we're working on that and working towards that. So that's helped us with our success to date. We also have an idea submission platform called Idea Central, and we're leveraging that this year to really help everybody engage and everybody be able to submit from bottom up and top down. As they see continuous improvement ideas, submit them forward so that they can have ownership in the continuous improvement effort. So we talk about continuous improvement, and really that is the basis of lean, continuously improving, continuously evolving over time. What is it? Well, if you go to Wikipedia and you type in continuous improvement, this is essentially the definition you'll find. But what I really want you to key in on is the two key words is incremental improvement over time or breakthrough improvement all at once. When we move to this next slide, this really highlights the incremental improvement and then the breakthrough improvement. When we come into work every day, most people on this webinar today, are looking for ways to continuously improve, and that's not uncommon everywhere. Saying, how can I improve? How can I do things differently? How can I make work easier and more efficiently and make it better for the customer? And that's the 1 to 2% improvement you see on this slide. Now, when you leverage lean programs, Lean Six Sigma programs that drive innovation, you get into what's called a step change. You move along the same parallel as a continuous improvement, but at the same time you're driving bigger changes, 7 to 10% changes with these step changes. And that's where Service New Brunswick we're looking to get to is become move towards one of these world-class leaders of improvement and target a 7 to 10% improvement on a yearly basis. By no means are we there, but we need to have a goal, a stretch goal to work towards. So our strategy for this year is continue to build the culture. We need to continue to build the culture because we've been doing this for 4, 5, 6 years now. But even still, we still have opportunity to continuously evolve the culture. We're not at a point where we can say we need to stop, and we never will be at a point where we can stop working with the culture. We're going to do this through things called waste walks. We're going to leverage waste walks to help us drive the continuous improvement culture. We're going to expose our managers and our people to this methodology, which will help them understand how to continuously improve on a daily basis. We're also going to continue to do process improvement projects, whether they be a Lean Six Sigma project, a lean project, or rapid improvement events that happen in a faster paced environment for improvement. By exposing people to this, they get to understand the methodology and they get to buy in and see how this methodology works and understand, gee, you know what, this could benefit our areas. And finally, we're going to move to being a process-driven organization. And what that essentially means is instead of being functionally focused, we're going to be process-focused. We're going to focus in on our processes. So this is essentially our strategy for the years going forward, for this year and going forward. And I'm going to talk about each of these buckets and give you a little bit more detail as to what we're doing in each of these buckets. So as we continue to build the culture, I alluded to or spoke about the performance excellence process before being driven by central government, and Service New Brunswick has been a part of that for 2 years now. We've been doing that a bit on our own for about 5. That's been critical for us because that's not only are we communicating to our employees with Service New Brunswick and our customers, also central government is doing that as well. So that's really enhancing our ability to create the culture. We're also doing this person by person, process by process, and project by project. So getting different employees involved in project work and different process work, that's really helped us grow our culture because they're able to really see the tangible, see the benefits, and really be involved and exposed to the methodology. So it's been a big plus for us. We're doing this through project work, obviously, through waste walk and white belt training with our folks as well. Obviously, continuous communication, that's critical. We're doing that via our intranet site, different presentations, educational sessions, lunch and learns, that type of thing, getting people involved, engaged, and let them hear the messaging in different manners and different environments. We're also making some substantial investments in training. With our black belts, they go through a 6-month program to become Lean Six Sigma certified. We are also training our process owners and project champions, which I'll talk about in a bit. Our executives have each invested 5 days of their time as well, not to mention the frontline training that we're providing as well. So on our waste walks, this is the methodology that's really shown some positive results for us. And the interesting thing is, and I alluded to it when I talked about continuous improvement on a daily basis, everybody is doing this in some way today, whether it being coming in and saying, you know, if I was able to remove that roadblock yesterday, I'd be able to work much more efficiently. Everybody's looking to improve. Everybody's looking to do things more efficiently. What we're doing at Service New Brunswick is really just putting a structure to it and helping our managers, and we're sending them away for training for a day. We're actually doing that in-house and providing them the methodology and the means necessary to understand how to perform a waste walk. And then from there on a 30 and 60 and 90-day increments, they're performing waste walks and reporting them out. And with that too, we've had significant engagement from our executive, and they're actually reporting them out to our executives in a bit of a celebration at the end of that period to really reinforce and entrench why it's important to Service New Brunswick and the value that these waste walks are bringing as well. The great thing about waste walks is they really require minimal effort. You're talking about a day's worth of effort on a monthly basis. And as we get this ingrained into the culture, we're hoping it's just everyday work. People are doing it every day, looking for opportunities to improve. And we've seen that with quite a few of our waste walkers. They're still coming back after they've been trained and after they've gone through the certification process and continuously bringing ideas back for improvement and future project ideas. So how's it done? Well, it's pretty simple. It's done by walking the work areas and looking for things that don't make sense. Following a process around, maybe it's a document that stops on many different desks and asking for approval. And asking, the question, well, why does that happen? Why does that have to happen? And then making the changes to improve that. So essentially what they're doing is they're engaging people inside and outside of the process. They're walking the areas, they're looking for waste, writing it down, and taking action on it. And they're getting a lot of support from their managers and their senior level executive to make this happen. Just some waste walk examples and some past examples of success that we've had. And what I want to kind of reiterate here is that they're not huge things. They're small things, but all these small things are significantly adding up, and you'll see that when we talk about results and how significant this program has been for us at Service New Brunswick. One of the examples is we've had a service center manager look at the type of pens they put out for customers, and this manager had mentioned that customers have a tendency to I guess, borrow the pens but never return them, which I guess is a soft way of putting it. And we've all done that before. We've used a pen, we put it in our pocket and walked away. Now what they found was that they're actually putting out some higher quality pens than potentially necessary. So the conversation happened is, why are we putting out these higher quality pens? Why aren't we putting out a lesser grade pen that still writes and they're still able to fill out their documentation? They did that, and what they were able to save in that one service center was $400 in their yearly office supplies budget. Nothing significant, but a small change for the better. In our accounts payable department, they looked at stopping printing their daily AP reports and used an electronic filing solution. And what this resulted in is about 18 hours of a person's time saved over a yearly basis, which what that means is they're able to go back and do the more value-added activities on a daily basis. Maybe that's 10 minutes a day, maybe it's 5 minutes a day. It's 5 minutes a day where they don't get broken up and have to focus on something else. They can continue to focus on the important things, the reasons why they're there. Not to mention there was about $500 in material savings as well generated from this. At Service New Brunswick, we have some very extensive and substantial training programs for all our people that come on board. And I was privy to this, and they provided me with a very nice binder. It was a very elaborate binder, well put together. You could easily see there was lots of time and effort put into it. What they found with this was that actually a lot of people didn't use the binder after training, or the people who did refer to it, quickly the information became outdated because of processes that changed and new information being provided. So what they did was that now at the training sessions they provide a link, a common link that everybody can go and get current, up-to-date information. And as you can imagine, substantial time savings there, about $1,500 worth of time saved back to the employees who were putting these binders together, and then about $6,500 in material savings as well. Finally, on the finance valuations on vehicles, what was happening was customers were coming to our service centers with vehicles that weren't in the books that had the proper valuations for our client service representatives. And they had to call the finance department to get a valuation on this vehicle. Sometimes they were able to get a hold of them, sometimes they weren't. Sometimes they had to wait a little bit longer. All the time, the customer was standing there waiting as well. So what they did was they worked with finance, and now the owner signs off on an affidavit that says, yes, I did pay this much for this vehicle. So no longer are they standing and waiting in line in front and causing extra wait time. So direct benefit to the customer, roughly about 5 minutes per transaction per year, and about total of 40 hours for the year for the customers in the CSR. They're getting that time back, so it's a great added value for our customers. So we've had some, as you can see, all of these examples are small examples, but they've had a significant impact, and I really want to highlight, the benefits that have come out of this for us at Service New Brunswick. So we've had a total of 2 waves of waste walk training that have gone through. We're actually just finished our 3rd with another group of 10 people, and we're doing on Friday another group of 10 people. So to date, we've had 54 total waste walks, and we've generated about $46,000 in soft savings from these 18 different people. So that's time back to the organization that they can reinvest in the value-added activities. One more significant thing is we've been able to generate $200,000 in hard savings. So that's budgetary dollars that we're able to drive back and save on our bottom line through these initiatives. So a lot of these small initiatives have really added up and have helped drive success for us financially, as well as giving lots of benefit back to the customer. one thing we've noticed is that we've had a lot of these waste walks that we've been able to transfer across the organization. We've developed a process around that, so we're able to leverage so quickly the $200,000 in hard savings, the $46,000 in soft savings, and the other customer benefits we're able to rapidly share across the organization. So that's also helped us gain some momentum and build that continuous improvement or lean culture, if you will. So the next pillar that we had mentioned were Lean Six Sigma projects, or rapid improvement events, or lean events, if you will. So typically, a typical Lean Six Sigma project is about a 3 to 4 month effort tackling a specific business problem. They're team-based, which is key. They're data-driven, so we're using data to make the decisions. And the three things we're really focused in on is improving efficiency, reducing variation, and increasing customer satisfaction. There's many other benefits to them, but those are really the three key ones. One thing that's critical for us that we're doing with our projects, whether they're a Kaizen, rapid improvement event, or a full-fledged Lean Six Sigma project, is our black belts who are driving these projects are following up at 30, 60, 90 days to make sure that what we want to have happen results-wise are actually happening. And this is a critical thing for us. So when I'm going around and presenting this around the organization, I get a lot of questions saying, you know, when should we engage? When would I have a Lean Six Sigma project? And I refer to this simple graphic, and I say, okay, so you have a business problem, and do you know the root cause? If you don't know the root cause, well, that's a potential process improvement or lean project. If you have a business problem and you do know the root cause, but you don't know the solution, well, that's a great time to do a process improvement project. Get a team engaged, get them to come up with a solution, get that synergy going in the team. But if you have a business problem, you know what the root cause is, you know what the solution is, well, in most cases, people are just tackling it and going and doing it themselves. So that's a good instance, and that's a lot of the conversations I have around the organization as to when to engage. So Lean Six Sigma projects, obviously they require resources, and you're going to have a team, you're going to have a black belt, you're going to have a project champion, and you're going to have a process owner. All those are critical people. And I alluded to earlier the training and the investment that we put in for each of them. So just to talk about the team, they're typically comprised of people within the process, so subject matter experts. You also, if you can, it's great to have a customer, somebody who can speak on behalf of the customer. That's really good, so you can get the customer requirements when you're building the process. Also, process owners, project champions, and black belts. And really the team is responsible for working on the business problem and identifying and implementing the solution to the problem, so they're ultimately responsible for that. We talk about a black belt, you know, you get a lot of jokes around, oh, black belt, you know, somebody trained in martial arts. Well, no, that's really not the case. We're talking about somebody who brings Lean Six Sigma methodology to the team. Talking with somebody who's going to facilitate this project so that it'll move forward and bring in the methodology so that the team can effectively solve a business problem. And they're critical for driving the project and facilitating the team through the improvement process. Your project champion, well, they're responsible for the overall success of the project. They're usually a higher level executive that's able to remove obstacles for the team when they run into it and help push the importance of this project forward. And what's really critical with them is they're really saddled with the change management along with the process owner and the black belt. But for them, they need to be the cheerleader and they need to be the person pushing it forward. And a lot of times they're called senior responsible owners or executive champion or executive sponsor, whatever you want to call them. We call them project champions, but they're the ones that are really helping clear the roadway and lead the change management charge for the project. Service New Brunswick, we also lean on them for future project identification, and that's worked well for us in the past, but we can definitely do better in that aspect as well. Process owner, much like the project champion, this is a go or no-go conversation. If you don't have a process owner or a project champion, then you really shouldn't be proceeding ahead with a project. Your ability to succeed and sustain results are lessened. And if you think of the black belt as a consultant coming in, well, the process owner is the business owner, if you will, of that specific area. And they're really responsible for the process. So typically our projects are centered around different processes, different business processes. So they're typically responsible for the process. They're also responsible for the ongoing continuous improvement after the project's over. Once the black belt hands over the project and the team hands over the project, the process owner is going to run with it and make sure that it's running as optimally as it should and moving it forward. They're also responsible for the daily management, and the daily management brings a whole other aspect to it too, because this is a change for a lot of organizations. Because when you embark on one of these Lean Six Sigma or Lean projects, you're really looking at it from a metric standpoint, and how do we improve this metric? So they're really starting to manage based on metrics, which is a big change. We also lean on the process owners for future project identification as well, and they're really up there on the front lines, and they're able to provide some good future projects and future challenges and future business opportunities for us. So just to talk about some current Lean Six Sigma projects or Lean projects that we have on the go in our areas right now, we're currently working with our teleservices branch, and we're looking at increasing response rate there from 84% to 90%. And what we're talking about is essentially the percentage of calls answered at our service center. So we've seen a gap there, and we're looking to increase it to 90%. Our motor vehicle area, we're looking to decrease process time, so service time for customers for transfers and renewals by 30%. We're undertaking a project now that's looking at that specifically and how we can address that. In our property assessment branch, we're increasing the properties inspected per assessor from 500 to 850, so that's going to have a direct impact on the citizens of New Brunswick. We're going to be able to get out and get to more properties more frequently. Also in land registry, we're decreasing the effort associated with paper applications by 25%. It's usually about 28,000 hours on a yearly basis associated with paper, and we're looking to decrease that down to 21,000 hours of effort. Pretty significant for us. Also, in our Reynoldsman office, we're looking to increase the percentage of damage deposit refunded within 21 days from 60% to 85%. So those are some current projects we're working on. Just want to highlight some past successful projects that we've had. First one being customer service rep utilization. And what I'm talking about there is the level of busyness, if you will, of our customer service reps at our different service centers. We tackled this through a scheduling model. And what we found was that we were able to increase the level of utilization by 5%. What was happening was that we're very seasonal in nature, and our business fluctuates significantly, and we were scheduling based on past practices and not necessarily on data and demands. We were able to implement a scheduling model that was able to help us, and in turn, we were able to maintain service levels but also save $200,000 in wages in the process. On the same note, we also did a project around flexible work at our service centers. What we found was that we actually had contract levels that were higher than our demand that was coming in our door. So we had actually client service reps saying, you know, can I do a little bit more? Is there something extra I can do? So we were able to move some work from different areas of our organization and introduce that into the valleys, if you will, of our demand. And that's provided some value-added activity for our customers and for our client service reps, and they've actually been able to save $20,000 in wages in a different area where we didn't have to hire some more people. We've also undertaken this was about 2 years ago, in our large centers, we took an initiative around our service center wait times, and they were hovering around just a bit above 22 minutes on average. And the project was able to deliver a 50% reduction in wait time, so now we're down around the 12-minute mark on average. And that's driven obviously directly to the customer, and they've been able to see those benefits. Finally, IT change management requests. We've increased the percentage completed in 2 days from 63% to 95% by taking on a lean project in that area, which has had direct benefit to our internal customers because they're able to get changes through in a more quick fashion. And finally, moving to a process-driven organization is kind of our last step and last piece of the strategy this year. Currently, as I alluded to, we're functionally or departmentally structured with like organizations, like departments. And we're looking to drive business performance through managing our processes. And why is that important? Well, if you think about it, in a lot of instances, what will happen is you'll have departments hand off something to another department. You don't have that consistent management flowing all the way through. And as we get into managing our processes, daily management through metrics and by managing our processes really helps drive that consistency of a process. Also, process improvement activities are identified through this type of process. And really the key one is ownership and accountability. And that's when I get back to the handoffs in between departments. If you have somebody owning a process that streams across several different areas, if you think about a hiring process that may go across different departments, whether it's payroll, human resources, and the hiring department alone, if you have somebody owning that process right along, you can get your hires in a faster pace versus, well, I've handed it off to this department, now it's their responsibility, or I've handed it off to that department, it's their responsibility. You get ownership the whole way through. You can clearly start to see when the process is breaking down, and you have consistent management all the way through. So you start to see where the opportunities are. By managing processes fully, you get to see where the opportunities are. It also creates an understanding of the processes. What are the processes that are underperforming? What are the processes that are actually performing at the levels we want to? So why does Service New Brunswick want to become a process-driven organization? Well, first of all, they're how we do our work every day. Processes are the means to completing our tasks, delivering our services to the customers, our clients, the citizens of New Brunswick. And processes are the means through which organizational strategy is delivered. You have a strategy, and through your processes, if they're operating efficiently, you'll have an easier time delivering your strategy. If you have broken processes, it's going to be difficult to deliver your strategy. Ultimately, they link people to strategy. You have people who perform the processes, and processes enable strategy. So there's the linkage. Processes enable business objective achievement. That goes back to also strategy and delivery. If you have broken processes, it's going to be much more difficult. If you're not aware of your processes or how they're functioning, it's going to be much more difficult to have business objective achievement or deliver on your strategy. They also ensure successful partnerships and keep customers happy. Keep customers happy. Think about the last time you went to a coffee shop and you didn't get what you wanted, what you ordered. Or maybe your coffee wasn't hot or your tea wasn't at the temperature you like it at. Right away, there's a dissatisfied customer. There's an issue with the process there at that coffee shop. If we have process management, you're going to have less of those instances. And ultimately, the processes are the heart of the organization. And I know once you remove the people, you take the people out of that equation, because a lot of people say the people are the heart of the organization, and some will argue that the customers are the reason for being there. But really, the processes are what deliver the services to the customer and link the people to the customer. So our processes are the heart of the organization. So how are we doing this at Service New Brunswick? Well, we're working through facilitated sessions. We're using a tool called Enterprise Value Stream Mapping, and we're mapping the flow of value from the customer's eyes. So what are all the different processes that Service New Brunswick does, and what is the customer willing to pay for? What is the flow of value? So anything that's not value added to the customer, we're going to try to remove that. And we're targeting the end of this fiscal to complete that to the exercise with our operations divisions. And as you can see on the screen, what we have is just a draft of what our core processes are. So if you think about it, you have a citizen that comes in, they're at Service New Brunswick, they're either looking for a service transaction, they're looking for information, they're looking for dispute resolution, maybe to register something, and then out of those 4 services, hopefully they're walking out with a fulfilled transaction. If not, we've dropped the ball somewhere and we need to pick it up. That's our move toward the process organization. That's our strategy to move towards that, so that we can drive the ownership and accountability, and that we have clean handoffs across our departments, and at the end of the day, value for our customers. Just to kind of wrap up today's conversation, some key lessons that we've learned, and I alluded to this earlier, that executive support is critical. Whether you have full support of all the executives or support of a couple of key ones, that's going to be critical if you're going down the route of rolling out a lean program. To have that person, at the executive table talking about the successes, talking about the importance, will be critical for your lean program and success. Another one that's really key is communication of a vision to all. If you really truly want to be a lean organization, get that message out there, talk about it, talk about why it's important to the organization, why it's important to business results, why it's important to them, and why it's important to do this for the customers for that instance. You need to have that clear communication, clear vision, and the more you can communicate that out, the quicker the engagement will take place. The third one, which is sometimes tough to swallow, but not all projects will succeed, and that's okay. And I know not everybody wants to be associated with a project that doesn't succeed, but that happens in these type of environments when you're just starting off on a new journey, a lean journey. It'll happen that not all projects will succeed, and that's okay. They're going to fail. Don't be scared to fail and move on to the next opportunity. It's going to happen. It's better to stop a project midstream that may not be successful and move on to the next. It's not different than any other project methodology that you may be exposed to. And finally, change management. Change management, we've learned some tough lessons at Service New Brunswick around that, around specific projects. It really needs to dovetail in with lean. It needs to be a partnership. You need to effectively have change management. It kind of goes back to that communication of vision. You need to get people engaged. You need to needed to talk about it, because you're bringing in a whole different methodology and way of thought when you bring in a lean program than people are used to, and they'll have questions around that, and some people will resist that. So it's really critical that you have an effective change management plan in place so that they're ready to go, and you can answer those tough questions where people are resisting, maybe potentially developing into a lean culture or a continuous improvement culture, if you will. And that's the end of my presentation today. I hope I've given you a few tidbits that may be of use, and at this point in time, I'm happy to answer the questions that maybe have filtered through.
Hey Joel, it's Guy. Let me just sort of pop up a video here. So it's Guy and Robert in the background here at the ICCS. So thank you for getting us started. That was absolutely fantastic. We've already started to get a whack of questions that are coming through. So sit back and get ready for a few tough ones, because they're coming. But that was great. So the first question that came was, are the black belts existing SMB staff who were trained on Lean and Six Sigma, or were they new hires?
It's a mix. It's a mix of both. Actually, I came in an existing black belt, and I was hired from outside the organization, from private industry. But the majority of our people to date right now have been existing Service New Brunswick staff, so we're promoting from within.
Okay, the next question for you is, how many staff are dedicated to advancing the Lean culture or managing Lean Six Sigma projects at SMB?
Just to go back, I wanted to reiterate, I guess, on the existing black belts, one thing that we do, just to go back to the first question, and then I'll come back to the how many staff. We do have an extensive screening process that we go through for people. We want to make sure we get the right people, and it's also important for engagement to have people within the organization promoted, but we do an extensive screening process to make sure we get the right fit for a Lean Six Sigma black belt, because that's not the right role for everybody. And some people may enjoy it, some people don't. So we want to make sure we get the right fit. So just to reiterate a little bit more on that first question, and how many staff right now? We have 6 Lean Six Sigma black belts that are engaged in that. We also have an alignment champion that really heads the whole initiative for us, along with, and that would be a guy you had mentioned, Judy Ross, prior to, but she's our VP that really leads that for us. And we also have some people that handle the side of the performance excellence process around the scorecards, SOMIAs, those kinds of things. So we have another 2 to 3 people in that shop. But really around the Lean Six Sigma, you've got 6 black belts and you've got an alignment champion, so we have 7 people.
Okay, the next question is, for some of the less task-driven or more information-driven processes, what type of metrics are you using, and how are you managing to measure a government service that isn't easily measured?
That is an interesting question. I'm not sure if somebody can provide a little bit more context to that question. It's tough without metrics. We really need to be able to measure the information side of it, and we work hard to find the right metric for the process. And it's difficult. In a lot of instances, we know we're making life better. We've done a few projects where we know we don't necessarily have a metric, and we'll go in and we'll do a project that we know will enhance quality of life either for staff or for customers. But most of the times, that's a measurable outcome. You know, nine times out of 10, it's measurable. So we really strive to make sure we have a measurable metric before we go ahead and do a project, because if you can't really define it, it's tough to define the success around it.
Okay, so more questions to come. So that sounds great. You've got a lot of interest here, so lots of good questions. So the next one is, what does SOMIA stand for? And then how did you go about successfully implementing this approach, the Lean Six Sigma approach?
So SOMIA, SOMIA. Essentially, that's initiative tracker. So you're talking about strategy. What's your strategy around that? How does that align? So strategy is S. O is objective. M is a measure. So are we actually, how do we know we're going to achieve it? Let's make sure we have the proper measure. I is initiative. So what's the initiative that's going to take place? And then what's A is for action. So that stands for action. Essentially, it's initiative tracker that lines everything back to strategy. So the second part of that question, Guy, was around how we rolled out the Lean Six Sigma program. That's been, for us, that's been 4 or 5 years in the making, really. We started off with Lean. I guess I've kind of told it through this presentation, but for us, it's really been getting the communication out there. We decided to go the route of getting black belts first. A lot of people will get green belts, will get master black belts, different levels of certification in. But really, you need to have executive buy-in off the start. You need to have that high-level ownership, sponsorship, if you will, to have that, and then you can come out with a good strategy to say, how are we going to communicate this out? What are we looking to do? How does this line up to our overall strategy? So we tied it in with our strategy first, and then brought black belts in to say, how can we enable the black belts or use the black belts to help us deliver our strategy? And that's really what it was used for. And I'm not sure if I'm fully answering the question, but I'm happy to have off-topic dialogues with anybody. I've just flashed my email address up on the screen, so if you'd like to contact and have a conversation, I'm more than happy to.
So, sort of related to that last question, is the question of how hard was it to get executives to actually dedicate a week to training? That sounds quite an accomplishment.
Yeah, that's not easy. I mean, and that's why it was a big win for us. Fortunately for us, and you know, it's the nature of the circumstance that we're in. We had a directive from our government that, you know, this performance excellence process is going to be critically important, and this is the method we're going with. And our executive, you know, they bought into the strategy and said, you know what, we're going to go ahead with it. It wasn't easy for our president to give up 5 days to go on training. That doesn't happen. Now, mind you, they broke it up in chunks, so a couple of days here, a day here or there. But it was there was some negotiations that went on to get them there. But fortunately, they realized the importance of it and were involved. But centrally being directed from our government obviously has had some benefit with it as well.
So one of the questions we just received was with regards to the benefits that you spoke about. There were hard dollar benefits and soft dollar benefits, but how easy was it to quantify the savings was one of the questions.
Project specific in a lot of instances, and it's really difficult sometimes to quantify the customer benefits as well. So it can be, once you are comfortable in the methodology and you kind of understand how to quantify what the opportunity is, then typically the benefits are fairly easy to quantify. But there are some ones that are definitely challenging. The ones around information, the question that was posed earlier, those can be very difficult to quantify. What ones that talk about lead time and the stuff that's waiting in queue to go, how do you quantify that? Those can be difficult. But with our Lean Six Sigma Black Belts are trained in that methodology and how to quantify benefits, results, hard and soft dollar savings. So they have the experience to do it, so it's easier for them. But it can be difficult for managers in our wastewater program there. But we also coach them on how to do that, and it's a learning experience for them and for us. So to answer your question, it's not necessarily always easy, but with the training the black belts receive, they have the knowledge to do it.
Okay. Here's a question that I think oftentimes comes up as these initiatives are introduced. I know it was one of the questions that came up when Saskatchewan introduced Lean across the entire Saskatchewan government. But did you find that staff saw this as a potential way of cutting jobs, and if so, how did you deal with this perception?
Yeah, that was that's initially, some of the staff perception. And what's really important about this was getting out early with change management and having the conversations, having a strategy around what we're trying to achieve. That was the kind of the vision comment and the change management comment on my lessons learned. If we were to kind of go back a slide, communication of a vision to all and change management. So you need to have a senior level executive to say, this is what we're looking to do, this is what we're trying to do. And our plan at Service New Brunswick and government in most instances as a whole, but Service New Brunswick specifically, is we're tackling this through attrition. So as if there are opportunities that arise for us to maybe improve a process so we don't necessarily need to replace somebody when we retire, that's what we're looking to do, and that's the stance Service New Brunswick has taken on this. And we've been honest and upfront about that that's how we're going to handle this. We're not doing it through cutting. So that conversation up front had to happen so that you can ease the feeling of the employees, because right away you're going to get resistance if you don't have those upfront honest conversations and have that change management strategy to say, this is what we're trying to accomplish. And fortunately for us, it hasn't gotten to a point where we need to cut positions. We've been able to do it through attrition now. In some instances, if it's different in a different area, then you're better off being honest up front and saying, you know what, there are going to be some difficult decisions. We're going to try to minimize that, but we are in the state we're in, and things will have to happen. But fortunately, for Service New Brunswick, we're not there, and we're able to manage it through attrition.
Okay, so you are definitely setting the record for the number of questions after a webinar, and I really do appreciate that folks are sending these in. But so let's try and get a few quick snappers in here. So we'll try and give you a few to handle here. One of the questions was, where and how did existing staff obtain their black belt training?
So existing staff, some of the existing staff came with training. I came to the organization with a green belt, but went through the government of New Brunswick, went out with an RFP and hired a training company to do that. So they came in-house and provided that to us. We use a company called Alignment Strategies who provides the training, and they came here and trained our different people. In the first wave of training, there was about 20 people trained. In the second wave, we've gone through another 20 people.
I think you may have touched on this, but just as it was asked a couple of times, how many belts do you have in the organization of your size, and what colors and levels do you have in place?
Service in Brunswick, we have 700 employees, and right now we have 6 Lean Six Sigma black belts in our organization. We only have black belts. We don't have any green belts, although there are some pilot projects going on in other governmental departments that are looking at green belts as another level. And it's really depending on what you're looking to do. We also have centrally in government, we have master black belts. So the province of New Brunswick has 3 master black belts, which help provide support to black belts to help finish the projects and drive the continuous improvement culture. So we pull on them centrally, all the different departments do.
Okay, and I'll just stick on this theme for one more question, and then we'll shift to a question on waste walk. What was the initial cost for the Six Sigma certification, and what is the ongoing annual training budget?
Ongoing annual training budget fluctuates depending on who we're looking to hire. It's roughly costing about $10,000 a black belt, roughly, to train. That could be different for different people, but we roughly budget about $10,000 per black belt for training.
So with regards to waste walk, Timothy Young from the Workers' Compensation Board in Manitoba has asked, how frequent are they, and how long does it take to complete a waste walk? Are they comparable to conducting workplace safety inspections with reporting processes and checklists for managers and staff, where the managers and staff are trained in the use?
It could be very similar. Typically, our rule of thumb is it shouldn't take them any more than a day's worth of effort spread out across a month. So They could be working, for an hour here, an hour there. Could be following the process for a period of time. So it is inspections, because you're going out and looking at a process and walking it and actually literally following the process around to understand where are some opportunities. So very similar to what Timothy was saying around the inspection side of it, that they may be going around and doing workplace inspections. Very, very similar, but in a different nature. You've got your blinders off and you're looking for what are wasteful things that are happening in the workplace, and really asking the question, why are we doing this? It's great for new employees to be involved in this type of thing, because they come in with untainted eyes and can quickly ask questions why, and it's a good engagement for them as well. So very similar to what Timothy's saying, but it's probably a little bit different methodology and training.
So another question, how do you measure performance for processes that don't require technology? Those would say handoffs between departments, for example, the HR hiring process.
Exactly. For that one, real simple metric comes to mind is turnaround time on a hire. We traditionally in government are very slow to turn around our hires, and that's a process that we've looked at tackling as well. And the quick high-level metric would be turnaround time. How quickly can we get a hire in place? Because if you think about governmental approval process, that can take quite a while. So if you're at 3 months to hire somebody, can you get that whittled down to 2? Can you get that down to 1? Can you get that down to 21 days? That type of thing. So that's the type of metric we'd be looking at for that.
Okay, and finally, to put you through the paces, one last difficult question, and then we'll let you go and say thank you. So the first starts with Joel, a great presentation. But the question is, you spoke about savings, but capacity problems also require investments in solutions. Can you comment on how Lean supports investments in solutions? And this comes to us from John Gelder from Ottawa.
By all means, yeah. A lot of Lean projects. I've heard from a couple different people, and I believe it, that a Lean manager or a Lean black belt's best friend is the IT manager, or the IT director, or the VP of IT, because there a lot of these Lean projects, and we've come across it, that we actually just finished a project with our assessment group that identified, we need to invest in technology to further this process improvement. And the process improvement that we did just enabled the platform for the technology investments that they're going to be making in the future. So by all means, technology is a key part of this, and that's kind of the innovation side that's critical. So they dovetail together, and my advice to black belts is, take your IT managers or IT directors or VP directors out for coffee. You have to. It's good to have them in your back pocket. So hopefully I answered your question there, but definitely there's a tie-in there with Lean Six Sigma and technology.
Okay, Joel, I lied. I have one more question for you. And this is interesting because it's good that we touched on all the issues you raised, and it was, you mentioned a Kaizen or a rapid event. I can't remember the language. But have you done that, and how long did it take, and what kind of issues are ideal for Kaizen and rapid solution deployment?
Yeah, we have done a few of these, and they've been very successful. And really, when you're wanting to do this is when you are crunched for time, essentially. When there's a burning need, a burning issue. A lot of times in private industry, they're looking at this as, we've had a huge customer complaint around this specific item. Let's get it addressed. Let's get it addressed quickly and make it happen and get it fixed so that we can address this customer concern. That's the best time to do it, when there's a burning issue. It needs to be dealt with right away. Because typical Lean Six Sigma projects are going to take 3 to 4 months. I wouldn't say you do all your projects this way. You want to do the right ones this way, meaning the ones that need to be addressed immediately, because you want these ones, you're making decisions with a little bit less data, you're making decisions a little bit quicker because you want to address immediate need. Whereas in the typical Lean Six Sigma, when you're doing a data analysis, you're understanding what are the critical factors you need to change, and you're putting a little bit more effort into the analyze side of it, whereas this one happens a little bit quicker. So if you have a burning need that needs to be addressed, that's a great time to do a Kaizen or a rapid improvement event.
All right. You can take a breather now. Let's get into the questions. Congratulations. That was very well handled. So let me first of all say thank you so much for an excellent presentation, and you could just tell by the level of participation and engagement that you captured people's attention and were able to provide a fantastic overview of your journey and the tools and some examples of what you've been able to accomplish in New Brunswick, and so thank you and congratulations on the success. For those of you who are participating on the webinar, I'd like to thank you for your participation and let you know that you'll soon be receiving a survey asking you for your feedback on how you thought today's session went. And ways in which these events can be improved, and also get your thoughts on what kind of topics you'd like to see us cover. And just to remind you that we have recorded this session, and by recording these sessions, we give you an opportunity to review the material and/or to share it with colleagues in your organization, and it becomes a great library of resources. So with that, I'm going to wrap up today's webinar. And again, thank our presenter Joel Dickinson for an excellent session today. I know you are going to be getting many emails, if you probably haven't already started to see them, because there's a lot of interest in this topic, and your expertise and experience really shone through today. And for the rest of the folks, I'd like to wish everybody a wonderful summer day wherever they reside, from coast to coast to coast in the country, because we have participation from all three coasts. So thanks to everyone, and have everybody a great day, and we look forward to seeing you on an upcoming webinar. Bye bye.